So I've had the iPhone 15 Pro Max for about 9 months. I've had the Galaxy S24 Ultra for around 6 months. 6 months is going to be July, so this is going to serve as my 6 months later comparison. And by the end of this video, you're going to find out my thoughts on how these are stacking up now that we had some announcements to iOS 18. We know the Z Folds are coming, the Flips, and what I just feel about the two best smartphones I feel like on the market today. So the very first thing I want to talk about is that I'm running the iOS 17. Keep that in mind for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I didn't want to put beta, but when we talk about software, I have the 15 Pro on the beta, so I will discuss some of the changes and just show that screen to show what I'm talking about. And then over here, we're on the latest versions of One UI 6.1, and we will be getting some updates to One UI 7. But they're not out just yet. So just keep in mind, these are both on official base softwares that you would buy in the store today on either one of these phones, not any betas, nothing like that. All right, so which represented a better value for money? What did my take after owning both of these as an owner of both? Which one has represented the better value here? I actually think the Galaxy S24 Ultra, if we're talking straight dollar for dollar, feature for feature, has represented the better value. I have a phone that feels more like a computer. Over here, if I go to Dex, I plug this thing in and I can use the phone itself as a straight up computer. To me, that is boss. Now, at first, when I plugged it into the monitor, it didn't work out very properly, but I did get the Good Lock module that will allow me to put it onto the full resolution. I forget exactly which one it was in here. There's one of these in here, but it basically allows Dex to go into the full resolution of my monitor. At first, it was only like limited to 1080 or something like that. It didn't look that great. But also the inclusion of the S Pen allows this to feel kind of like a mouse. And if you see that little cursor, I added that little computer-like cursor there through another Good Lock module on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Not only that, I feel like I have a phone that does pretty much everything the iPhone does, regardless if it doesn't have iMessage or FaceTime. Majority of tasks, it can do the same things, and it can do split screen and stuff like that. So definitely, I do like the ability to have multiple applications side by side once in a while. Of course, on a tiny screen, it gets a little bit crammed, but overall, I feel like it's features, baby. It's the enhanced intelligence. It's the AI stuff that was already here. Apple is catching up later this year when the official iOS 18 comes out. But overall, these months later, it just feels like feature for feature, the S24 Ultra was the better value. But the iPhone 15 Pro Max, there's something else I think about. I'm not going to be able to sell my Samsung unless I trade it to Samsung for a lot of money down the line. So long-term value, I feel like the 15 Pro and Pro Max, and especially those two, are going to hold their value longer because they are supporting the Apple Intelligence features. I think is a better value to get a 15 Pro Max. If you plan to keep the phone and then you want to sell it for a lot later and you want to like get another phone, this is going to be probably the better choice in that respect. iOS has felt kind of basic to me, though, just kind of like useful, minimal. I really like it, though. It really plays well with the ecosystem, but it's just not overly fun. It did get cleaned up and a little bit more fun here, though, in the iOS 18 beta. I shouldn't say cleaned up. Some people say it's actually messy. What I really mean to say is it got more fun to use because of all these customization features, and even the hidden folder, which is not super hidden, unlike Samsung secure folder, which is definitely more hidden, but definitely a little bit more fun here on the iOS 18. Value for money, though, it all comes down to the being an Apple phone. It has pretty good value for money because you can always resell it for a lot later. Generally, I feel like both of these, it just kind of matters which ecosystem of apps and software you're using and products. Like if you have a Windows laptop, the S24 Ultra plays much better with that product. If you have a monitor and keyboard, this is going to play better with that. If you have a Samsung Watch, a tablet, of course, Samsung, Galaxy Buds. And also if you have AirPods, iPad, if you have Apple Pencil, you have, MacBook, those kind of things, of course, it's all day the iPhone. One thing I do think is a little better about the Samsung product, though, is that they're usually, when you're buying like a phone, a tablet, a laptop, they have good deals on like their headphones. Like the Galaxy Buds are usually thrown in for free, are a very, very low price. You have to pay full price for AirPods and stuff like that. So definitely you pay more to get involved with the Apple ecosystem. I feel like you can pay quite a bit with Samsung if you don't take advantage of their trade-ins. But if you do know how to like work the system a little bit, just take advantage of trade-ins, look for those deals. That's what I mean by work the system. And they know what they're doing. They allow those deals to be on there. So it's not like it's some scheme or something. You can get a really much cheaper like way to get into the Samsung ecosystem than the Apple. Now, 6 months later, when it comes to the body, the build, the durability, first of all, this Apple has better durability. I feel like I had this phone, never dropped it. For some reason, I got some scuffs. You might not be able to see them. They're like little chips in the corner of this phone. I don't know how the heck they happened. I don't know if it's picking up on camera. They're very tiny, but I'm OCD about this, especially at this price. This phone has a couple little scratches in each corner, and in the right sunlight, I actually have some scuffing here. Let me see if the camera can get it. I think it's getting it right there. I know it's tiny, but it still irritates me. Right there, got it. See, it's right there. I don't know how the heck this happened. I've never dropped this phone without a case, and even when it wasn't a case, it wasn't on cement, nothing crazy. I don't understand this. Like, it's like, what is that? On the iPhone, I've dropped this thing several times in a case, even without a case a couple times. Scared me those times. I look around the phone. There's basically nothing. So I think the body is slightly more durable to scratching or resistance on the iPhone, but also I feel like the iPhone is a little bit lighter, more comfortable feeling. Definitely plays nicer in the palm. It feels more designed for human hands. That's just what I got to say about it. The Galaxy is like, okay, we'll take a little bit of a, con with the sharper corner to give you the nice square screen so you can have more of a large canvas for using the S Pen, getting things done. And it feels more productive with that size, but when it comes to comfort and ergonomics, it definitely falls a little short. However, I know some people are going to say, well, dude, don't you know the S24 Plus exists? Yeah, I own one. You see it right here? I love this one too for its similar feel to a 15 Pro Max, but where it falls short is that they don't put the top specs like they put in the Galaxy S24 Ultra. I'm mostly referring to the camera and the S Pen. Other than that, it's pretty similar, but the S24 Ultra just has the top end of Samsung. This one is it's a little bit behind the S24 Ultra. That's why it costs just a little bit less. All right, so let's talk about the display quality. Now, first of all, weird thing, this year, the Apple device is actually a little bit more vivid, if you will, until you turn on the vivid mode for the Samsung. The natural mode's out of the box, a little bit less vivid on the Samsung. It's really, really toned down to be more accurate. So that's a good thing. The Apple has pretty much nailed the kind of like mix between saturation and natural. It's pretty much flawless. You don't really even need a button to change display modes because it's just about perfect in its accuracy and tuning. But I think if you want to really tone it down, you could go to accessibility down here. Let's go to accessibility. You can go down to display and text. You can go to color filters right here. A few steps, but you can kind of tweak it over here and to do a couple things, color tints. They got a few settings in there if you want to mess around with it. But generally, and the True Tone works very fantastic as well if you want to adapt to the lighting in your situation. Overall, the display has been really good, very sharp, and also very well tuned. I don't like the dynamic island for watching content. I'm almost never choosing this product for long-term sessions of media consumption. I'm sure many do, but the iPad is just better because it doesn't have the dynamic island. The MacBook is better because it's just a much larger screen. A TV is better, obviously. An iPad mini is probably not quite as good, but those OLED iPads are just way better for media consumption. But if you don't have those choices, it's pretty darn good. It's just this dynamic island is really kind of in the way, I feel like, of definitely enjoying a long-term session, unless the content was shot in like a different format where it doesn't really cut into it. If it does, it's definitely a little bit annoying, but you get over it. I'm just saying, when you're comparing, we're doing a comparison, when you're comparing it to a smaller punch hole, it's noticeable. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a video I took. If the content is like this, you won't even care about dynamic island, but once you go like this, that is a small thing. And they'll say, some people can say, well, you're nitpicking here. Well, I shouldn't I? $1,299 plus tax, like other phones, cheaper, more all screen. Like, do you get it? Like, as a comparison, I'm looking for some things to knock about it. It is my phone. I could talk about it if I want, but you can see what I really like about the display is look at those bezels. Absolutely super thin here, but not the thinnest Apple can do. We're probably going to see thinner on the next iPhone. Size wise, I never had an issue with it, and it's mostly because of the shape, the weight. It's pretty easy to maneuver this phone just because of the shape of it. The weight makes it not too crampy in your hands either. So it's an excellent size to weight ratio here on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Absolutely love that. So that's all I really got to say about this display. It also doesn't auto dim very frequently, so you can be in high brightness mode for a long time. And it's one of the brightest out there of usable nittage or nits that you can use on the day-to-day. That's pretty cool as well. I like that. Now, let's dive a little bit deep into the Samsung display. First of all, Samsung takes a much better advantage of its panel with the edge panels, the multitasking abilities. We already know this. We don't have to dive too deep into that. A lot of people complained about its lack of that Samsung vividness. So Samsung heard your complaints and brought the vivid mode back to the phone. You can also go into the vividness settings and crank it up even more. Now there is an anti-reflective coating on here that is much more noticeable than you might think. And really what it does is it makes this phone much less glare than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. You know, in the past, I complained that Samsung phones would be having like PWM problems, and all OLEDs still omit some of that, but they cleaned it up here. I think they raised the PWM rate or something like that. I never get a headache, never get eye strain, nothing with this display. This display is fantastic. It also is incredibly sharp. The problem, though, some people have is they're used to those super vivid, vivid, saturated Samsungs. Those do tend to play well for like media consumption and stuff like that, but for all day usage, which a lot of people, heavy users, are doing, this is much easier on the eye, this anti-reflective screen here. So it has its pros as well. Some people just don't like the fact that it doesn't look as punchy as some of the older Samsung, and I think that's got to do with maybe some of the anti-reflective properties. But overall, to me, it's a stunning display, and it's super sharp, it's super smooth, and it gets incredibly bright. So taking a look at some of the features here, we got the dark mode, obviously. Let's go into the settings here. We got the eye comfort shield, which is basically Samsung's True Tone. Let's head up out of there. We'll go into settings up here, and we'll go into display. And you'll see we have the ability to tweak between Full HD Plus, QHD Plus. Right now, I've been in the Full HD Plus to save battery life, but I'll put it here for the video. And you can see that very sharp font sizes. You have all that display customization. But really where it shines is this ability to, if you go up in here, click this three-dot menu, you can change between adaptive. That's normal, but an Apple device, you have to kind of go through and find that auto brightness mode. Over here, you can turn on the extra brightness, which means, you know how like a lot of phones, you have to wait till it's the sunlight to get the full brightness? On here, all you have to do is tap this and you get the full brightness all day, every day. You want to drain through that battery quick, turn that on. There you go, have fun. But at the same time, the ability to turn it up to the full brightness whenever you want, I like that ability of control. Overall, though, the bezels don't look quite as thin as they used to, mostly because the older displays used to spill off the edges. But that flat panel has tended to lead to a very practical feel. No mistouches on the edges, nothing like that because of this flat panel. Screen protectors are as easy as ever to put on, and I hope they stay with the flat panel in the future. I am seeing rumors that they're going to round the corners just slightly more so they don't feel like they're digging in your palms on the S24 Ultra. That would be a nice touch. But overall, an incredibly bright, vivid enough, I would say, if you put on the vivid mode, and sharp panel with a lot of anti-glare. You'll be very happy if you decide to pick up this phone and you want a more accurate display. You want a super vivid display, I probably would steer you towards maybe the 15 Pro Max. I wouldn't say that's more vivid, but it kind of has a little bit more saturation look to it. Or the S23 Ultra. That's also great. And we also have things like the OnePlus 12, but that's a little bit more accurate looking, kind of like this display. So 6 months later, when it comes to the software between the two giants in the industry, this is where I'm going to bring in my 15 Pro to talk about iOS 18. I'm going to be leading with the 15 Pro Max though. So the 15 Pro Max running the base software all year long hasn't felt too different than before. It's kind of not a lot to talk about. That's why iOS 18 has been very interesting lately. But Apple has brought a lot of things with iOS 18, including dark mode, the ability to put your icons wherever you want, customizations that we've seen on Android forever. Even the control center got more circular, like the circular buttons you'll find in Android devices. Over here, the ability to hide folders like found in Samsung secure folders, send messages later. Tons of stuff in here. Is a lot more Android like this year for the upcoming iOS 18. So there's not a lot of things I could say that are so much better now about the customization, but it still goes much deeper on the Samsung. For example, here's one ability you still can't do on iOS: change your grid sizes. I don't know if they're going to bring that. That's probably asking too much, maybe in 3 years. But changing your grid sizes. Also, you can kind of tweak a lot more because it's a much more open source platform. There's a lot of apps with launchers and things of that nature that are still going to be more customizable on the Android device. But Apple is at least bringing stuff that makes it much more customization than we've ever seen before for iOS 18. So that's kind of how I feel 6 months later with the software between these two. Both of them get updates pretty regularly. And the Samsung still much more feature packed. I would say that the actual performance of the software, if I'm being real with you, my 15 Pro Max has crashed apps on multiple occasions, even on the 17 versions. This phone has never crashed ever. The Samsung phone has been super stable this year. I don't know what they did, but they have cleaned things up in the Samsung town. I'm telling you guys, this phone is rock solid. It doesn't lag ever. It never crashes any app ever. I've never had a single crash on this S24 Ultra. I'm not lying to you, bro. This phone, though, I've had a couple. And you know those like white icons you see on iOS 18? I've seen that a couple times on here, even on the 17 version. It's not all of them. It's like one or two, but it goes away. Just a little bit more buggy, I feel like, on iOS this year. Hopefully we see it become much more stable towards the end of the iOS 18 beta. Software support, though, wise, I do feel like having long updates on both is awesome. S Pen is an area where the Samsung is just, there's no match for it. There's some phones out there that have pens, but they're kind of weak sauce compared to the Samsung S Pen. This is a full suite of S Pen features, the full shebang. This is like having a tablet with a pen, but on a phone. That's what this is like. So there's really nothing out there like this. There's not a sense to keep talking about this because, you know, the Apple can't even compete here. So that is a separator for the Samsung device. 6 months later, I always find myself thinking about jotting down a note. Not always, but when I do get an idea and I want to jot down a note and I want to draw something, I'm a visual person, honestly. I get annoyed that I don't have my S Pen with me. So Samsung has a true advantage, especially for, you know, creatives who like to get visual with their drawings and note taking, and also for people who don't like to use their finger all the time. They want to select things that are small in the browser, or just select certain things, or, you know, they just enjoy using a stylus to go through things. That's pretty cool as well, just as a cursor, you know, or going into drawings and just rocking out with that. There's a lot you can do with that pen that for me, it's not always useful, and I don't use as much as I used to, but it's still pretty awesome that it's there. I'd rather have it than not have it there. I hope they never take it away, honestly. 6 months later with performance, the Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max reminds me a lot of the iPad Pro M4. Has this super powerful chip that never really takes advantage of that power until now with the Apple Intelligence, but that's not actually now because we can't even try that out yet on the beta. It's still not out on the beta yet. In the fall, though, this is going to be game-changing for Apple. We're finally going to be taking more advantage of it. Annoying, though, that we don't still have a split-screen mode, even on iOS 18. But yeah, it just feels like an overpowered phone. Like, we don't even need this much power for iOS 18. iOS 17, you probably, well, for iOS 18, Apple Intelligence you do, but for iOS 17, it was definitely overpowered. Never really gave me any major lag issues. Again, a couple app crashes like I talked about in the software section. But generally speaking, in gaming is where it really showed its true colors. Strong performance there. At the beginning, it got a little bit toasty, but all these months later, all these updates later, Apple's doing a much better job managing that heat. However, the 16 Pro will correct those heat issues that we've seen early on. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, though, this phone right here, man, dude, this phone is crazy fast too, as well, with its Snapdragon for Galaxy 8 Gen 3. This thing has 12 gigs of RAM. It should have 16 in the next model, I feel like, for the future of Samsung. Maybe there's is there 16 gigs on the 1 terabyte? I'm not sure. I could be wrong about that. I know the OnePlus 12 has 16 gigs, but this thing is blazing fast. I don't care what I'm doing. Split screening, popping viewing. Did I just say popping viewing? I don't even. Yeah, so we could pop things wherever it goes. Customize, blaze out, 17 tabs. It doesn't matter what you're doing, man. It's overwhelmingly quick. That's what it is. It's the S24 Ultra. It's the king of speed in the Samsung line. And again, like I said, I never got this phone to lag, choke, whatever. It feels super overpowered as well for a phone. But at least it takes advantage of the the features that Samsung has. Because I know Samsung's skin can get pretty heavy, and that's very evident if you tried out like their A line. It can definitely get bogged down on like the A line or like one of their budget phones. So definitely Samsung really shines in their flagship department. So talking about the cameras, honestly, I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't do always camera comparisons. Cameras gotten kind of boring to me over the years because I feel like they just keep bringing new camera tech, but acting like everybody's a photographer. Not everybody is a pro photographer. It's really hard to even tell a difference between the photos on this and a 14 Pro Max. They're all kind of similar. I like the 28-35 millimeter. It lets you crop in a little bit better. High quality 4K 60 video, portrait modes, simple camera to use on here. And of course the video for vlogging, it matches up super well on the front video to the rear. So you kind of got a powerhouse of media production in the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Probably my choice for short and video. But in terms of overall versatility, if you take a look at the Samsung camera, this thing is just fun to use. I always want to use a Samsung for fun. Also for zooming 10 times and 100 times. Now I know they pulled out that 10x optical. Hasn't really mattered much to me because of the combination of the 5x optical and the AI they do with the processing. The images almost look the same, especially on first glance. So I'm not giving them credit for that. I'm just saying that it hasn't bothered me as a consumer of this product. Also, you can see right here, 8K video overkill once again. If you go to the more section, tons of features. You can add more. It just goes on and on. I still like how Samsung is putting a lot of their camera settings right here in the camera settings. That's pretty nice. Pro video. Goes on and on. Also, the Samsung has really good audio quality from the video. The iPhone does as well, but I found the Samsung to be a little bit better here. The super steady mode is awesome. They also have a super steady video on here. I think it's called like the action mode or something like that. So yeah, camera on the front. I do find the Samsung still struggles a little bit with the skin tones. That's all I got to say about the cameras here. Samsung is overloading it. Months later, the Apple device has been my video choice, Samsung my photo choice, just because I like the zooming abilities for that product. All right, so when it comes to battery life, the Apple device seems to me to last a little bit longer when you are standby a lot. They're pretty close to me when it comes to general usage. My battery went down to 99%. I was getting lazy with my charging habits, and I made videos how to keep it at 100, but even me, I got lazy with my charging, and it dropped down to 99%. I was charging it up to 100, charging up to 100, and I went against my own advice, and that's what happened. So I'm a little bit annoyed by that, but is what it is. Some people are going to say 99, bro. I got like 93 on my health. The Samsung phone, though, has a lot more features to save battery, like their power saving features are a little bit more in depth. So I can eke out more with those features on. Generally, though, I feel like the iPhone is a little bit more impressive on the battery actual use. I just find the Samsung, especially on the 2K or the WQHD plus resolution, that thing just drains a lot quicker on this Samsung phone. But fast charging is a little quicker on here. Still not touching OnePlus's ridiculous rapid charging features with their chargers that they throw on the box, but still faster than the iPhone. Both support the wireless charging. Again, not super fast wireless charging, but fast enough. So battery life, it wasn't really something this year that I would choose either one of these on, because both of them are stunning in the battery department. So you can choose either one and be pretty confident you're going to get a full day of use pretty easily. The phone call disparity has become much closer now. The iPhone is doing much better in this department, even getting better signal strength in more rural areas than ever before. Samsung's still a little bit better though. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can actually get my 5G signal in my basement in the garage. Here, I can't. So the Samsung still, to me, is a little bit better in the connectivity department. Phone call quality is pretty solid on both. Both very loud. They have the Dolby Atmos mode on the Samsung though, to crank up the audio. Both of them are just decent. Very good in the phone call quality. You don't got to worry there either. Samsung phone also has more color options, although the color options this year are pretty toned down on both of them, unless you go with the Samsung exclusive color options. Both of them still quite premium, but it seems like both manufacturers went away from like zingy colors. They're going to more of a lighter hues, a little bit more of a toned down, like this is a productive phone. You don't need a super vivid product in your pocket kind of feel. Like look at this blue right here. Beautiful, don't get me wrong, but toned down. This is not like in your face. So definitely those in your face colors aren't really here this year, unless of course you go one of the very specific exclusive Samsung color options. So 6 months later with the 15 Pro Max and the Galaxy S23 Ultra, where is the future headed for this? What do I think about these? Well, I think the Samsung this year has definitely felt ahead of its time with the Google Circle search, which we didn't talk about much in this video, the advanced intelligence features, which we briefly touched on, which is a huge selling point of this phone. It just kind of felt like this whole year it's been ahead of that iPhone 15 Pro Max. And technically it has, and Apple knew that. That's why the iOS 18 is bringing a lot of customization. It's bringing advanced intelligence later this year. And I think we have a bigger comparison on our hands when the 16 Pro Max arrives here later this year. Has the S24 Ultra won out this comparison? I would say probably yes in the features. But this was pretty close, actually. I feel like the 16 Pro Max might take the crown once again pretty easily from the S24 Ultra. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. And I'm not saying the 15 Pro Max loses here. Both of these are going to support AI. This one, you just got to wait a little bit for it. But overall, this was a pretty tight comparison this year. And both of them are excellent choices. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section of this video. If you enjoyed it, click the like button for me. Subscribe for more. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.